The stars stretched endlessly across the void, a silent blanket of light that had guided humanity for centuries. On the edge of explored space, the human ship Nova Dawn glided through the darkness, its engines humming softly. Inside, the crew was restless. They were explorers, not soldiers, sent to chart the unknown reaches of the galaxy. But something had changed. A signal, faint, erratic, and unlike anything they'd heard before, had pulsed through their sensors for days. It came from a planet no one had bothered to name, a rocky orb ignored by the Galactic Council of alien races who ruled most of space. Captain Lena stood at the helm, her hands steady on the controls. She was tall, with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a quiet confidence that held the crew together. Beside her, Engineer Tom adjusted a screen, his fingers dancing over the controls. He was younger, barely out of training, but his mind was quick and his hands quicker. "It's still there," he said, frowning at the signal's jagged pattern. "Stronger now. Whatever's sending it, it's awake." Lena nodded. "Any word from the council?" Navigator Kale, a wiry man with a knack for reading star charts, shook his head. "They say it's nothing. Just noise from a dead world. They told us to ignore it and move on." Lena's lips tightened. The council, a group of ancient alien races with fancy titles and fancier ships, rarely listened to humans. To them, humanity was a young species, barely worth a seat at the table. But Lena didn't trust their dismissal. Humans had survived by asking questions, by chasing the unknown. "We're not moving on," she said. "Set a course for that planet." The crew exchanged glances, but no one argued. They trusted her. The Nova Dawn shifted, engines flaring as it turned toward the signal source. Hours later, the planet loomed into view, a dusty, gray sphere pocked with craters and jagged peaks. Its surface looked lifeless, but the signal pulsed louder now, a heartbeat in the static. "Take us down," Lena ordered. The ship descended, cutting through thin clouds of ash. They landed on a plateau surrounded by towering cliffs, the ground trembling slightly under the ship's weight. Tom checked the scanners. "No life signs," he said. "But the signal's coming from those ruins over there." He pointed to a cluster of broken stone structures half buried in the dirt, their shapes unnatural, like they'd been carved by something not quite human, or alien. "Suits on," Lena said. "We're going in." The team, Lena, Tom, Kale, and medic Rhea, stepped onto the planet's surface, their boots crunching against the brittle ground. Rhea, small but tough, carried a medical kit and a scanner, her eyes darting around. "This place feels wrong," she muttered. The air was still, but a faint hum vibrated through their suits, matching the signal's rhythm. They reached the ruins, a maze of cracked walls and fallen pillars. Tom ran his hand over a stone, revealing strange symbols etched into it. "These aren't natural," he said. "Someone built this. A long time ago." Kale traced the signal to a chamber deep within the ruins, its entrance sealed by a massive metal door. It was rusted but intact, with a glowing panel pulsing faintly at its center. "Can you open it?" Lena asked. Tom grinned. "Give me a minute." He pulled tools from his pack, simple human inventions, nothing fancy like the council's tech, and got to work. Sparks flew as he bypassed the panel's circuits. The door groaned, then slid open with a hiss, revealing a dark tunnel sloping downward. The signal roared through their comms now, sharp and insistent. They moved inside, flashlights cutting through the gloom. The tunnel walls were smooth, etched with more symbols that glowed faintly. Rhea's scanner beeped. "Energy readings are off the charts," she said. "Something's powering this place." At the tunnel's end, they found a cavern. It was massive, its ceiling lost in shadow, and at its center stood a machine. It was a towering thing, all sharp angles and pulsing lights, with cables snaking into the ground like roots. The signal came from it, loud enough to rattle their helmets. What is that? Cale whispered. Tom stepped closer, his eyes wide. It's old. Really old. But it's active. Look at those lights, it's doing something. He scanned it with a handheld device, his face paling. This isn't just a transmitter. It's a weapon. Or part of one. Lena frowned. A weapon? Who built it? Before anyone could answer, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a low rumble echoed through the cavern. Rhea's scanner screamed. Movement, she shouted. Something's coming. From the shadows, shapes emerged, sleek, insect-like drones with glowing red eyes. They skittered across the floor, their metal legs clicking. Defensive systems. Tom yelled, grabbing a wrench from his pack. The drones lunged, and the team scattered. Lena drew a pistol, a simple human design, not elegant but effective, and fired. A drone sparked and collapsed, but more took its place. Cale swung a metal rod he'd picked up, smashing one into the wall. Rhea ducked behind a pillar, shouting, "There's too many." Tom, still near the machine, worked frantically. "If I can shut it down, they might stop." "Do it," Lena ordered, shooting another drone. The cavern was chaos, flashes of light, the clatter of metal, the team fighting with whatever they had. Tom pried open a panel on the machine, yanking wires with his bare hands. The drones froze mid-step, then dropped, lifeless. The silence was sudden, broken only by the team's heavy breathing. Tom wiped sweat from his brow. "Got it. For now." Lena holstered her pistol, staring at the machine. "This isn't over. If this is a weapon, someone's going to come looking for it." Cale nodded, his voice grim. "And we're the only ones who know it's here." Back on the Nova Dawn, the team gathered in the command room. The machine's signal was quiet now, but its purpose gnawed at them. "We need to tell the council," Rhea said. "They'll want to know." "They won't listen," Lena replied. "They never do. But we can't ignore this. Whatever this thing is, it's dangerous. And we're not leaving until we figure it out." Tom looked up from his scanner, his face set. "I've got a partial translation from those symbols. It's a warning. Something about the sleepers waking." The crew went still. Outside, the planet's surface stretched silent and gray, but beneath it, something stirred. Humanity had stumbled into a mystery bigger than they'd imagined, a mystery they'd have to solve alone. And as the stars burned above, Lena knew one thing for sure, they wouldn't back down. The Nova Dawn hovered above the gray planet, its engines idling as the crew processed what they'd found. The cavern, the machine, the drones, it was all too much to ignore. Captain Lena paced the command deck, her mind racing. The signal might be silent now, but the danger wasn't gone. She could feel it, like a storm brewing just out of sight. Around her, the team worked fast. Tom hunched over his tools, piecing together data from the machine. Cale studied star charts, searching for clues about the planet's history. Rhea monitored the scanners, her face tense. "We can't stay here forever," Cale said, breaking the silence. "Those drones weren't random. Something woke them up, maybe us." Lena stopped pacing. "Tom, what do we know about that machine?" Tom looked up, his hand still holding a tangle of wires. "It's old, thousands of years, maybe more. The symbols call it a sentinel. I think it's part of a bigger system, like a guard for something buried deeper." "Buried deeper?" Rhea asked, her voice sharp. "You mean there's more down there?" Tom nodded. "The energy readings suggest it's connected to something underground. A power source, maybe. Or another weapon." Lena's jaw tightened. "Then we need to find it. If this is a weapon, we can't let it fall into the wrong hands." The crew suited up again, their movements quick but careful. The planet's surface was unchanged, dusty, silent, and gray, but the ruins felt different now, heavier with secrets. They returned to the cavern, the machine still looming in the center. Its lights were dim, but a faint hum lingered, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. Tom knelt by it, hooking his scanner to the cables. "There's a shaft under here," he said. "Sealed, but I can get it open." "Do it," Lena said. She trusted Tom's hands, they'd saved them once already. Metal groaned as Tom pried loose a hidden panel, revealing a narrow tunnel descending into darkness. A gust of stale air rushed up, carrying a metallic tang. "That's our way in," Lena said. "Stay sharp." They climbed down, single file, their lights bouncing off smooth, curved walls. The tunnel twisted deeper, the air growing colder. After what felt like hours, it opened into a second chamber, this one even larger than the first. The walls were lined with machines, smaller than the Sentinel but just as strange, their surfaces covered in glowing runes. At the center stood a massive crystal, pulsing with a deep violet light. Energy crackled around it, making the air hum. "What is that?" Kale whispered. Tom scanned it, his eyes widening. "It's the power source. This crystal, it's amplifying something." The Sentinel upstairs was just a relay. Rhea stepped closer, her scanner beeping. "It's not natural. This was built. But by who?" Before anyone could answer, the chamber shook. The crystal flared brighter, and a holographic image flickered to life above it, a map of the galaxy, stars spinning in a slow dance. Then a voice spoke, deep and mechanical, in a language none of them knew. Tom's translator buzzed, struggling to keep up. "It's a warning," he said. "Something about the Keepers and the Awakening. It's saying the system's active now." "Active?" Lena asked. "What system?" The answer came too fast. Shadows moved along the walls, more drones, larger than before, their bodies sleek and deadly. They didn't skitter like the others, they glided, silent and fast. "Ambush!" Kale shouted, swinging his rod. A drone lunged, and he barely blocked it, the impact jarring his arms. Lena fired her pistol, the shots echoing in the chamber. One drone fell, but the others closed in. Rhea ducked behind a machine, her hands shaking as she pulled a flare from her kit. She lit it, tossing it at the drones. The light flared bright, and they recoiled, giving the team a moment to breathe. "We can't fight them all," Rhea yelled. Tom, still near the crystal, shouted, "I can overload it." "Shut everything down." "Do it," Lena ordered, shooting another drone. The team held their ground, fighting with whatever they had, pistols, tools, even a chunk of broken metal Kale ripped from the wall. Tom worked fast, jury-rigging a power surge with his tools and a spare battery. The crystal pulsed wildly, its light blinding. "Get back!" Tom yelled. The team dove for cover as the crystal shrieked, then exploded in a burst of violet energy. The drones collapsed, their bodies sparking. The chamber went dark, the hum fading to silence. Lena stood, brushing dust off her suit. "Everyone okay?" The team nodded, battered but alive. Rhea checked her scanner. "No more movement." "We got them." Kale kicked a drone's husk. "For now." "But what were they guarding?" Tom pointed to the holographic map, still faintly visible despite the crystal's destruction. "That. It's not just a map, it's a network. Look." He zoomed in on a cluster of stars. "These points, they're other planets. Other sentinels, maybe." Lena stared at the map, her mind racing. A weapon system across the galaxy. Built by someone long gone. Or not gone, Rhea said quietly. Those drones were new. Someone's been here. The thought hung heavy. They weren't alone. Back on the Nova Dawn, the crew patched themselves up and studied the map. Tom had saved a copy, its data fragmented but clear enough to show a pattern. If this is a weapon, Lena said, someone's trying to use it. And we tripped their alarm. Cale frowned. The council won't care. They'll say it's our problem. Then we make it their problem, Lena replied. But first, we need proof. Hours later, a new signal pinged their sensors, sharp, deliberate, and coming from orbit. Ship inbound. Rhea called. The crew rushed to the bridge as a sleek, black vessel dropped from the void. It was angular, its hull shimmering like oil, nothing like the council's designs. They're hailing us, Cale said. Lena opened the channel. A figure appeared on screen, a tall alien with pale, scaled skin and eyes like burning coals. His voice was cold, clipped. You've interfered with something you don't understand, humans. Leave this system, or be destroyed. Lena didn't flinch. Who are you? The alien's lips curled. We are the Vorn. This is our claim. You've woken what we control. The transmission cut off, and the ship fired, a beam of white-hot energy that grazed the Nova Dawn's hull, rocking the ship. Shields up. Lena shouted. Tom scrambled to the controls, boosting power. The Vorn ship circled, preparing another shot. We can't outgun them, Cale said. That thing's built for war. Then we outsmart them, Lena replied. Tom, can you rig something? Tom grinned, already moving. Give me 5 minutes. He grabbed spare parts, a battery, some wiring, and a broken drone core from the ruins. Working fast, he built a makeshift pulse bomb, crude but powerful. This'll fry their sensors, he said. We just need to get it close. Lena nodded. Cale, launch it in a probe. Make them think it's debris. The plan worked. The probe drifted toward the Vorn ship, unnoticed amid the chaos. When it detonated, a wave of static washed over the enemy vessel, its lights flickering. They're blind. Rhea cheered. Get us out of here, Lena ordered. The Nova Dawn surged upward, breaking orbit as the Vorn ship floundered. They jumped to safety, the stars blurring around them. In the quiet aftermath, the crew gathered again. The Vorn, Rhea said. Who are they? Trouble, Lena replied. They're not council. They're something else, something old, maybe tied to that weapon. Tom held up the map data. They'll come after us. We've got their secret now. Good, Lena said, her voice steel. Let them come. We'll be ready. The Nova Dawn sailed on, a speck of light in the vast dark. Humanity had poked a sleeping giant, but they wouldn't back down. Not now, not ever. The galaxy might not know it yet, but the humans were just getting started. The Nova Dawn drifted through the void, its hull scarred from the Vorn's attack but still holding strong. Inside, the crew was a mix of exhaustion and fire. They'd escaped, but the weight of what they'd uncovered pressed down on them. The map from the ruins, the Vorn's threat, the ancient weapon system, it was bigger than they'd ever imagined. Captain Lena stood at the helm, staring at the stars. She knew running wasn't an option anymore. They had to fight, and they couldn't do it alone. We need help, Rhea said, breaking the silence. She sat at her station, bandaging a cut on her arm. The Vorn won't stop. And the council won't listen. They'll listen when we make them, Lena replied. But first, we need allies. People who'll stand with us. Cale looked up from his charts. There's a trading outpost nearby, Coron Station. It's a rough place, full of outcasts and smugglers. The council ignores it. Maybe someone there knows about the Vorn. Lena nodded. Set a course. We'll start there. The Nova Dawn arrived at Coron Station hours later, docking among a clutter of mismatched ships. The outpost was a floating junkyard, rusted metal plates welded together, lights flickering, air thick with the smell of fuel and sweat. The crew stepped out, weapons holstered but ready. Crowds of aliens moved through the narrow halls, scaled traders, feathered scavengers, hulking figures with too many eyes. Humans were rare here, and eyes followed them. They found a bar tucked into the station's core, its walls lined with salvaged ship parts. Lena led the team inside, scanning the room. A figure caught her eye, a wiry alien with gray fur and quick hands, tinkering with a broken engine at a corner table. His ears twitched as they approached. "You're human," he said without looking up. His voice was rough, like gravel. "What do you want?" "Information," Lena said, keeping her tone even. "And maybe a friend. We're looking for anyone who's crossed the Vorn." The alien paused, his hands stilling. "The Vorn? You don't cross them and live." "Name's Milo." "What's your story?" Lena sat across from him. "We found something, a weapon system, old but active. The Vorn want it. They attacked us. We think they're planning something big." Milo's eyes narrowed. "You're not lying. I've heard whispers. Ships vanishing near dead systems, strange tech moving through black markets. The Vorn don't trade, they take. Can you help us?" Tom asked, leaning forward. Milo grinned, showing sharp teeth. "Maybe. I'm a scavenger. I know others like me, people the council threw away. We don't like bullies. Show me what you've got." Tom pulled out the map data, projecting it on the table. Milo studied it, his ears flicking. "This is old, older than the council. If the Vorn control it, they could wipe out whole fleets. I'll spread the word. But you'll need more than talk to convince my kind." "What do we need?" Lena asked. "Proof," Milo said. "Something they can see. Hit the Vorn where it hurts, and we'll follow you." The crew left the bar with a plan. The map showed a nearby Vorn outpost, a small base on an asteroid field, likely a supply hub. If they could raid it, steal data, and get out, they'd have something concrete to rally others. "It's risky," Kale said as they prepped the Nova Dawn. "They'll be ready this time." "Then we hit fast," Lena replied. "Tom, can you rig something to even the odds?" Tom nodded, already grabbing parts. "I'll make a decoy, something to draw their fire. Give us a window." Hours later, the Nova Dawn slipped into the asteroid field, engines dimmed to avoid detection. Tom's decoy, a drone packed with scrap and a loud signal, floated ahead, mimicking a ship. The Vorn base loomed into view, a cluster of dark towers bristling with guns, orbiting a massive rock. As the decoy pinged, Vorn ships swarmed it, cannons blazing. The Nova Dawn darted past, unnoticed. "Drop us in," Lena ordered. She, Tom, and Kale suited up, boarding a small shuttle while Rhea stayed to pilot the ship. The shuttle latched onto the base's underbelly, cutting through a maintenance hatch. Inside, the air was cold, the halls lit by faint red lights. They moved fast, Tom hacking a terminal while Lena and Kale watched the doors. "Got it," Tom whispered, pulling data, ship logs, weapon specs, plans showing Vorn bases across the galaxy. "They're arming the Sentinels. It's a takeover." Alarms blared. Vorn guards, tall, scaled, and armed with energy blades, stormed in. Lena fired, dropping one, while Kale tackled another, using his rod to block a strike. Tom grabbed a loose cable, sparking it against a guard's armor, sending it crashing down. "Go!" Lena shouted. They ran, data in hand, back to the shuttle. The Nova Dawn peeled away as Vorn ships gave chase, lasers slashing the void. Rhea weaved through asteroids, dodging fire, while Tom jury-rigged a shield boost from spare parts. The Vorn fell behind, outmaneuvered. "We're clear," Rhea said, exhaling. Back at Koran Station, Milo waited with a crowd, dozens of outcasts, their ships patched but ready. Lena showed them the data, projecting it for all to see. "The Vorn are coming for everyone," she said. "They've got a weapon to control the galaxy. We hit them first, together." Milo stepped forward. "You've got guts, human. We're in." Cheers erupted. The outcasts, scavengers, exiles, traitors, pledged their ships. It wasn't an army, but it was a start. Lena felt a spark of hope. "We need to warn the Council too," she said later, back on the Nova Dawn. "They won't like it, but they need to know." The crew sent a message, attaching the data, and waited. The reply came fast, a Council ship arriving at Coron Station, its sleek hull dwarfing the outpost. A delegate stepped out, an alien with long limbs and glowing eyes. "I am Vexus," he said, his voice smooth. "You claim the Vorn threaten us. Prove it." Lena met his gaze. "We raided their base. They're arming a weapons system, sentinels across the galaxy. They attacked us for finding it." Vexus studied the data, his eyes flickering. "This is troubling. But the Council will not act on human word alone. You've started a fight you can't finish." "We're not asking you to fight," Lena said. "We're telling you what's coming. Help us, or get out of the way." Vexus paused, then turned. "We'll watch. Nothing more." The Council ship left, its engines fading into the dark. "They don't believe us," Rhea said, frustrated. "They will," Lena replied. "When we win." The outcast fleet gathered, a ragtag armada of dented ships and fierce spirits. Milo clapped Lena on the shoulder. "You humans don't quit, do you?" "Not a chance," she said, smiling. Their first target was a Vorn supply line, a convoy moving weapons to arm more sentinels. The plan was simple: hit hard, disable the ships, and scatter. The Nova Dawn led the charge, flanked by Milo's crew. Vorn ships loomed ahead, their black hulls gleaming. "Fire!" Lena shouted. Beams and missiles lit the void, striking the convoy. The Vorn fought back, but the outcasts were scrappy, dodging, weaving, hitting weak spots. Tom's latest trick, a magnetic pulse bomb, disabled a Vorn cruiser, leaving it drifting. Milo's team boarded it, stripping weapons and data. The convoy broke, retreating in chaos. "We did it!" Kale yelled, grinning. The victory was small but loud. Word spread, on Coron Station, through black markets, even to Council spies. The galaxy was watching now, whispering about the humans who dared to strike the Vorn. Back on the Nova Dawn, Lena studied the stolen data. "They're speeding up," she said. "The sentinels are almost ready. If they activate, no one's safe." "Then we stop them," Tom said, his voice firm. Lena nodded. "We've got a fleet. We've got proof. Next time, we hit their heart." The stars burned bright outside, and the Nova Dawn sailed on. Humanity had lit a fire, and the galaxy couldn't look away. The Vorn were coming, but so were the humans, and they weren't alone anymore. The Nova Dawn led the outcast fleet through the void, a patchwork armada of battered ships and burning resolve. Captain Lena stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical screen. The Vorn's heart lay ahead, a massive stronghold orbiting a dead star, its black spires bristling with weapons. The stolen data had revealed it as the nerve center of their operation, where the sentinels would be fully activated. If they failed here, the galaxy would fall. But Lena wasn't thinking about failure. Humans didn't win by fearing the odds, they won by breaking them. "We've got one shot," she said, her voice steady. "Hit their command center, stop the sentinels, and get out." Milo's voice crackled over the comms from his ship. "My crew's ready, human. Let's make it loud." Tom adjusted his latest creation, a signal jammer cobbled from Vorn tech and human ingenuity. This'll scramble their controls, he said. But we'll need to get close. Then we get close, Lena replied. Rhea, keep us tight. Kale, coordinate the fleet. The dead star loomed ahead, its faint red glow casting eerie shadows over the Vorn stronghold. The fleet moved in, engines dimmed, slipping past outer defenses. The Vorn hadn't expected an attack, not this bold, not this fast. But they weren't asleep. As the Nova Dawn closed in, alarms flared, and Vorn ships surged from the stronghold, sleek, deadly, outnumbering them 3-1. Hold formation. Lena ordered. The outcasts fired first, a chaotic barrage of lasers and missiles lighting the void. Vorn ships returned fire, beams slicing through the dark. A scavenger vessel exploded, debris spinning wildly, but the fleet pressed on. The Nova Dawn weaved through the chaos, Rhea's hands steady on the controls. Drop the jammer. Lena shouted. Tom launched it, a small probe packed with power, straight at the stronghold. It detonated in a pulse of static, and Vorn turrets faltered, their aim going wild. Now. Lena said. The fleet punched through, closing the gap. Milo's ship darted ahead, boarding a Vorn cruiser with his team. We'll clear a path, he yelled over the comms. Explosions rocked the enemy ship as his crew fought inside, turning its guns on its own fleet. The Vorn scrambled, their perfect order breaking. But the stronghold wasn't done. A massive cannon powered up, its barrel glowing white-hot. They're targeting us. Kale shouted. The beam fired, grazing the Nova Dawn's flank, shaking the ship. Sparks flew, but Rhea kept them steady. Shields holding, barely, she said. We need to take that cannon out, Lena said. Tom, can you rig something? Tom grinned, already moving. Got an idea. Give me cover. He grabbed a Vorn explosive from their raid, tweaking it with a timer. Lena and Kale suited up, joining him in a shuttle. Rhea stayed behind, dodging Vorn fire as the fleet held the line. The shuttle launched, weaving through laser blasts toward the cannon's base. Vorn drones swarmed them, but Kale manned the guns, blasting them apart. They crashed through a hangar bay, skidding across the deck. Guards charged, scaled, furious, wielding energy blades. Lena fired her pistol, dropping two, while Kale swung his rod, cracking armor. Tom planted the bomb, setting it for 3 minutes. Run, he yelled. They fought their way back, the timer ticking down. The shuttle roared out as the explosion ripped through the cannon, silencing it in a fireball. The stronghold shuddered, its defenses weakening. Nice work, Rhea said over the comms, pulling them in. But the Vorn weren't finished. A new ship emerged from the stronghold's core, larger, darker, its hull pulsing with energy. That's their leader, Milo said. I can feel it. The ship broadcasted a message, the same cold voice from before. You cannot stop us, humans. The Sentinels are mine. The screen showed a Vorn commander, taller, his scales gleaming, his eyes burning with hate. I am Korath. This ends now. Lena stared back. You're wrong. We're just starting. Koratha's ship fired, a wave of energy that tore through the fleet, scattering ships. The Nova Dawn rocked, systems sparking. He's activating the Sentinels. Tom shouted, pointing to a rising signal on his screen. Across the galaxy, the ancient weapons began to hum, their power building. We stop him here, Lena said. Rhea, get us close. Everyone else, hit him with everything. The fleet rallied, battered but fierce. Milo's ship led a charge, ramming Vorn escorts to clear a path. The Nova Dawn surged forward, dodging blasts, closing in on Koratha's flagship. Tom rerouted power, boosting their shields. We've got one shot, he said. Make it count, Lena replied. The Nova Dawn fired, a full barrage of missiles and beams, tearing into Karatha's hull. The Vorn ship retaliated, its weapons carving scars across the Nova Dawn. Alarms screamed, but Lena held firm. "Keep going." The outcasts joined in, their ship swarming like angry wasps. Karatha's flagship faltered, its shields flickering. "Board them," Lena ordered. She, Tom, and Kale launched in the shuttle again, crashing into the enemy bridge. Smoke filled the air as they fought through guards, reaching Karath. He stood tall, a blade in hand, his voice a snarl. "You think you've won?" He lunged, faster than they'd expected. Lena dodged, firing, but the shot glanced off his armor. Kale swung his rod, striking Karatha's leg, slowing him. Tom grabbed a fallen Vorn weapon, a plasma cutter, and slashed, cutting through Karatha's defenses. Lena tackled him, pinning him down. "Shut it off," she said, her pistol to his head. "Now." Karath laughed, blood dripping from his scales. Too late. But Tom was already at the controls, hacking the system with human stubbornness. The Sentinel signal spiked, then died, silenced by his work. Karatha's eyes widened. "Impossible." "Human possible," Lena said, knocking him out with her pistols, but the flagship's power failed, drifting as the fleet finished off the Vorn remnants. The stronghold fell silent, its threat ended. The Nova Dawn limped back, towing Karatha's ship, the outcasts cheering over the comms. "We did it," Milo said, laughing. "You humans are crazy." Back at Karan Station, the crew regrouped. The outcasts celebrated, their ragtag fleet now a symbol of defiance. Word reached the council, Vexus returned, his tone less cold. "You've proven your point," he said. "The Vorn are broken. The Sentinels are quiet. We underestimated you." Lena crossed her arms. "Next time, don't." Vexus nodded, a rare hint of respect in his eyes. "We'll watch closer now." He left, the council ship vanishing into the stars. The Nova Dawn's crew stood together, battered but unbroken. Rhea patched to console, smiling. "We're heroes now, huh?" "Heroes or troublemakers," Kale said, grinning. "Maybe both." Tom held the map data, its secrets theirs to guard. "There's more out there." The Vorn weren't alone. Lena looked at the stars. "Then we'll find it. Together." The fleet dispersed, but the Nova Dawn stayed, a beacon of human spirit. The galaxy had seen them, outcasts and council alike, and they wouldn't forget. Humanity had stood tall, not with numbers or tech, but with heart and grit. The war was a lie, a shadow they'd shattered. And as the stars burned on, Lena knew this was just the beginning.